this week because they let me know the day of.
Bastard.
That's super cool.
Okay. We're back. Hope the audio is better. We have a couple more mics. Just one, but enough for everyone to almost have a full one. So I'm Matt. I am hosting this week. You are?
I'm Kenzie. I am not hosting this week.
I'm Sophia. I'm a guest this week.
Some people might recognize her from a throwback episode from a couple weeks back. And
I am Hayden.
okay, Hayden, we don't know your face. So where do you go to school?
I go to Eastern Washington University.
What do you do?
I study my bachelor's in arts of psychology.
And how close are you to graduating?
I'm a senior. I'll graduate this spring / maybe summer.
Okay. I guess we should ask how everyone, every Eastern student we have on here, how have you liked Eastern?
It's definitely okay.
Have you gone there all 4 years?
No, I'm transferred from SEC.
Okay. So you've gone there for a little over a year.
A year and a quarter now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just okay. That's the best answer we've had yet.
I'm trying to be nice.
You don't have to be. This podcast is all about honesty. I believe he just said it was garbage. Okay, so this is our third week. Dude. So
Freaking dog.
we this week I think we're going to talk about archiving is going to be our main subject out at Eastern. But first up, we have a caller from last week or the week before. So I'm just going to play the message I got. If that's all right. Is that fine?
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh my god.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. I noticed that you mentioned a few weeks back that the little boy y'all had on your podcast. They said they were Jehovah's Witness. Hold on. Daniel, turn down the John Denver. I ain't trying to make a phone call over here. I was wondering when she'd come back for some re-education. Now, she would have to lose the Subaru Outback. These messages to our mothers. If she could stop by the Kingdom Hall sometime soon, we'd like to strip her of her birthday rights and Christmas celebration rights and just general fun all together. Thanks for having me. Okay, have a howdy doody day. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so I hadn't listened to that message yet. I just got that today while I was at work. So, so I mean, so I think that was about you.
Yeah, the little boy. Little boy, I guess, on the podcast.
So you're gonna go back to the Kingdom Hall anytime soon?
I mean, it was a pretty convincing message, but I don't think so.
No.
I'm not willing to give up the Subaru rights.
Okay, so this week we are talking about archiving. So first question I want to ask is, have either of you been to the archives at Eastern?
Yes.
You've been there?
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. So what have you done in the archives out there?
It was for one of Kate's classes, and we went out to the library and we were just looking at like old maps of the like Prairie Restoration Project area to like do research on what was there before and like what sort of ownership EWU had and the lease they had on it for like the farming of it for wheat. So yeah.
Was that for the police project?
Yep.
Okay. So do you like utilize records and stuff in there for
That was-
your research?
Did I use anything? I don't think I actually used anything from that particular like that like outing because they just put out a bunch of like old maps and whatnot, and that wasn't really relevant to what I was doing because I was doing like the education side of what the Prairie Restoration Project would end up being. But the librarian put together like a list of like resources for us, and that was super helpful. But we didn't actually use any of like the stuff from the archive.
All right. I don't know if that says anything about the archives or not. Hayden, you gave us a look like you had no idea that Eastern had archives.
The first time you said archive, I was thinking something like the catacombs in Europe.
Well, that says a lot.
Do you know where they're at?
I'm gonna guess the library.
Where?
In the library.
Where in the library?
Second basement.
Second
Like
basement.
The second,
Like a secret basement.
like level sub 2.
it kind of feels like that though.
Yeah,
Because when you go in there,
so
it's
separate.
I had never gone in there before. I'm like, I didn't know this part of the library existed.
Well, it has
Yeah.
so many windows. Like the first half of the basement has no windows, right? Because it's underground.
Yeah.
But then the second half has all these windows, and
Yeah.
like it has like that really big glass door, and it feels
Yeah.
like it's not in the basement.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely weird, but I mean, there's not windows in it for a reason. Actually, you can see outside from the main room.
There's windows in it.
Yeah.
I was saying the front half of the library basement, not the archives.
Yeah.
The
Well, yeah,
actual
you're
basement.
like it's like a daylight basement. You're actually underground for
Yeah.
parts of the basement, or like the bathroom side.
Yeah.
Did you know the library had a basement?
He did, yeah.
Underneath.
Have you been to the library?
Library.
Library.
Have been library.
I've been there a couple times just to do like prints on the computers that are right inside, and to get some coffee.
Yeah.
I mean,
Same.
that library like every day.
Gross.
Just for Thomas Hammer. Though.
just for the coffee. Just for my Red Bull Italian soda.
Hey, don't judge me. God, we're blowing through these. So you didn't know anything about them.
Not at all.
Okay.
Do you know what an archive is, Hayden?
Yeah. Do we need to define an archive?
So like online archives at least have lots
Don't
of
jump ahead.
I'm sorry. So an archive would be like just a collection of really old texts and old stuff that like are archived as in not super relevant kind of.
I mean, like, that was pretty spot on, except for the relevancy, because, like, Eastern's archive tries to be relevant to, like, Eastern and, like, Eastern Washington, it seems like.
Okay.
So, a lot of their stuff is, like, Eastern related, though, it feels like. At least what he showed us.
She's it's very rude.
She has things to say.
Maisie, what do you know about archives? Oh, now you're quiet. She got stage fright.
Completely expecting a fake voice.
What are you talking about? Why are you guys laughing? This little boy needs to shut up. So, do you find... Kenzie, let's start with you.
Okay.
Do you find anything important about the physical preservation of the archive?
Oof. I don't know, I mean, like, so, like, Sophia and Hayden were in our class, but we talked a lot about, like, what it, like, about, like, the problems with preserving, like, physical things into digital, but we're not there yet, so, because I actually looked at your question.
We're talking about physical preservation.
I know. I think it's important because it does tell a history, especially because, like, even if you preserve photos that aren't by, like, the top photographer of the time, like, that's still pretty telling to, like, the environment that it was taken in, what was important to people that weren't, like, famous, quote unquote, you know? And kind of, like, what they found important, but also, I lost the third point that I had. Doesn't matter. But anyway, I think it's important. I think that, like, the maps of the time show how different, like, cities change and grow and shrink and disappear and towns and that fun jazz.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I feel like physical preservation is probably the most important part of the archives, as in, like, it's actively saving documents. and the maps and like old books, little things. So like organizations, like there was a frat little pamphlet book that had flip pages in it that you could like thumb through and see like what the itinerary and stuff was for a single night for a frat there, that I thought was pretty
Oh
cool.
wow.
It wasn't a friend.
Drink, rest, drink.
Yeah. I mean, it was like an organization kind of like that. I don't know.
It was like an elementary school home ec book thing.
Was it?
Yeah.
I wasn't listening. Maybe I wasn't listening.
I liked all like the 70s, the pictures from the 70s at Eastern that's like up in that little display.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool.
They got photos of like when a couple or one of the buildings burned down and stuff too. Like I think it was Hargreaves burned down and like.
No, it was like the original. It was the building that existed before Showalter.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, from like turn of the century.
It was a wooden building.
Yeah, it was cool stuff like that. I think is really important to preserve. It's like that's why we have a bunch of museums and stuff.
But even just like because museums tend to do like the big important things and the big important peoples, and I think archives kind of fill in that gap of preserving the not as famous works, but that are still just as valid as to like displaying what a period in time looked like.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about physical preservation, Sophia?
I think it's important, especially because like I know that when it comes to like a historical aspect, like for our Prairie project, we didn't use it because there was no like historical relevance of education. Like the education was all going to be in the future with like what students will be doing out there. But I know for like the Native American, like the groups that were doing stuff on Native Americans in the area, that going to the archives was really helpful. So I know when you have to like research historical things, like the archives are a really good like source. It's better than like any sort of like .gov website that you can like go to. So
Nice. Yeah, it's cool. My next question is, answer is going to be yes, but have any of you seen a digital archive of any sorts? Kenzie, feel free to chip in.
I mean, I feel like I want to not, because like I mean like a database in it itself can kind of be an archive, because it's a lot of them are archiving physical journals into a database that's electronic. But up until we went to archives, I don't think I saw like an archive that was preserving a moment in history of like physical things being turned into digital, kind of like what Steve showed us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd ever seen anything like that before. I think all of my like digital archive experience was like with databases and that type of thing.
I'm trying to think of like what actually like is defined as like an archive on like the internet.
Yeah, maybe we should define that before we ask, like, have you ever seen one? So an archive, like a physical archive, is something where it collects like texts and documents and stuff. And then even like art, statues, that type of stuff, right? Maps.
Pertaining to probably an area, usually.
Yeah, or a certain subject or something like that. So a digital archive would be, well, the ones we saw examples of were Eastern took some of their physical archive and just scanned it and made it out on the internet, put it out on the internet, so you could access those physical documents through the internet and see what they were talking about.
Yeah, they would use platforms and do different sites for different things.
So,
or pages,
I guess a digital archive would be preserving any sort of like certain texts, whether they're historical or present.
Would like preserving like pages of a website count as a archive? Like,
I would think so.
Because I know that there is something that's helped me is I think it's called the Wayback Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that like preserves what a website looked like at a certain date and time, and that's been really helpful for me. And then just I think yesterday I was looking at like words on the Oxford Dictionary through Eastern's web like portal, and they have like lists of like the history of every single word in that dictionary. It's just like a huge long list. So yeah, I feel like, I mean, we've all seen archives on the internet then.
Yeah.
What are like examples of digital archive using? We'll go back that far.
Social media and blogs often have limited availability on the like website, so it can only show so far back. So to get farther back, you need to go to a new web page that is about that blogger page's archive, and so you can see more past tense posts, or like Sophia said, the websites that can make the internet look like it used to. So you can say like, oh, make the internet look like it was from 2007, and you can see like endings and like current news without like having to search in the past. You can more search like as if it was present, like a time machine. Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's not like you can go back, but like way back.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So, moving a physical object into a digital space, kind of like what the Eastern archives are doing. Do you think there's anything lost by digitizing those types of texts and objects? Hold on, let me explain. So stuff we saw was the pamphlet I was telling you about, like the home ec pamphlet. It's a little booklet, but the way they had to scan it in is page by page, and you have to click page to page. It doesn't even have like page turning animations or anything. It's like have to reload the site so it can pull up the next picture and the next picture, that type of thing. So you're not achieving the same amount of like physical textuality that you would. You're not fully seeing like the object or holding it or that type of stuff when you put it in a digital space. So do you think there's anything lost by digitizing those types of things? Importance maybe?
I feel like it's important to digitize stuff because if for some reason the physical copy gets damaged or any just from time just like wears down, you have the digital copy still available. But I feel like it's something that you might need to do together. So you have the physical copy and you also have it digitized for preserving it.
Yeah.
But because like you're saying like it's hard to understand like the full like really understand what it is if you can't hold it in your hand or see it. So
yeah. Any thoughts?
I don't think anything's really lost when you make it digital. Like Sophia said, I think it just preserves the possibility of the physical item being destroyed. And the biggest issue I've seen with archives online or databases is that, like you said, it takes a lot of time possibly to go page to page. And it's just kind of annoying, doesn't feel as natural, intuitive. But if a website makes their portal or database well made, I don't think there's much of a loss in the digitizing at all.
Kenzie, you got any ideas?
Well, you can talk.
So is there anything that you think is gained by putting these things into a digital archive rather than loss? Like you're like losing the ability to hold it, but do you think there's anything gained from putting it into a digital space?
Accessibility.
Yeah, definitely.
Being online makes it a lot easier to get to. I do not have to drive for 40 some minutes to get out to Eastern, go into the library, learn how to log on to their like portals and stuff, or find out where an archive is since I have no idea. It would be a lot faster for me just to go on Google Chrome open up my Eastern Insider, whatever it's called now, and find the online database.
Yeah, if it's that easy to find, I still have yet to even bother looking because how big
Yeah.
of a mess the website is.
Oh god, the website's horrible.
That's so bad.
Everything like migrating over to inside subset stuff is not on Inside EW.
I was on Western's page the other day, and holy hell, is Western's page so nice to navigate? It's so easy to find anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they went from like my EW to Inside EW, and I'm like, but the platform for my EW was so much nicer.
It works.
It was so nice.
I don't know why we're Anyways.
Okay.
I guess it depends on how accessible they're making it. So is it something that they're like, here, if you have your login, you can log in on to Inside EWU and you can look at the archive, or is it something you still have to go to the library for?
It's all accessible through the library page. You don't even have to log on.
I feel like that's pretty nice. Like Hayden said, makes it more accessible.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how user friendly it is and like how easy it is to navigate. But like, I mean, it might be nice. I feel like what's nice about the library though is that if you are like trying to find a really specific thing, it's hard to do the job of the librarian and be like, oh, I know that, like, this is exactly where I need to look at this for this date or whatever I'm researching. Like, librarians are there for a reason. They do really good at that sort of stuff, and so that might be something that's lost, is that you don't have someone who is helping you navigate all of that information.
Yeah, definitely. Librarians, you have to get a college degree to be a librarian.
Yeah.
Pretty much anywhere, so.
Well, and like, I mean, even with it being like digital, you can have like a search box, right? And like, because like the Eastern Archive, EW archives, they like tag everything, so you could like search by like a tag and then find anything and everything they have on it. But you'd have to know what tag to search. It's like, like you still lose that like one-to-one communication with basically a professional, not even basically, like a professional on like the subjects, or at least on like, not even on the subjects, but like on where to find the subjects that you're looking for, you know?
Because like you're saying the tags, like what if it's not something that you
Would
know
search
to look
for,
for,
yeah.
like then that's gonna not be available.
Yeah, because I could search like EW Palouse. That probably would pop up something, but like they might have it all under Prairie for whatever reason, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, who was it in our class? It doesn't matter who it was. That was searching for the Palouse project, and they didn't know it had been renamed to the Prairie Project. I think, and they could not find any information on it. It's like it had been wiped from Google that the Palouse Project existed.
I actually, for my internship, I was working with the sustainability department and like trying to update that page, and I was editing the pages to upload eventually, and I went to go search the Prairie Project so I could like find it on Google. It wasn't even like listed in the first couple of them. It was rough.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think that like, I mean, kind of backtracking a little bit, like a well-made archive kind of does make everything more accessibility, but I do think that you lose a lot even with it being accessible, because like, you know, you brought up the home ec book, but there was a book where it's connected to a sculpture that's on campus. So when you lose the like physicality of like being able to go to that sculpture and like see it, but also the book itself had like clear overlays on top of each page that added on words to the page. And so when Eastern scanned it in, or I don't think it was Eastern, I think it was someone else that did the project. But whoever did the project, when they scanned it in, they just scanned the overlay on top of the picture. So like some of the things are unreadable because like the words are all there, but like you don't know what was underneath and what was put on top. And like that in itself is a story of like what the picture was or what the words were.
Yeah.
And then what words were added on top of it in like an artistic form, you know, in relation to what the sculpture meant, what the project meant to the individual that created everything. It's like that's lost. And I mean, even if you create like a well-made archive where you could even show the difference between the overlay and the regular, like you still lose that like ability to like see it and then like see the sculpture.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were able to have the book and the sculpture right next to you, you lose that when it's on a digital platform, because like even the digital platform could choose to not highlight the sculpture at all. So you wouldn't even know that the book is in relation to a sculpture. You would just see the book and be like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah. One of the things I found with, I think, is lost with digital archiving is a subject that got brought up in class was Eastern's old mascot, the Savage. Right?
Oh,
Do you not know about this?
I
no.
thought we were just equals.
So Eastern's
Way back in the day.
no, not even that. Like
I know.
the late 70s.
Yeah.
Eastern was the Savage, and it was just a Native American mascot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So racism.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Kinda.
it is all by all standards, but like, it's hard to take things in context of the time period,
Yeah.
especially when we haven't lived them.
I
Like,
just think of like the baseball team that's like really high controversy.
The football team
you mean
Redskins.
the red?
Oh yeah, the
yes,
football team.
team.
I don't do sports.
Yeah.
I don't either.
I mean, yeah, it's by all means racist, and I'm not defending it. And I'm not going to put a but you know, I don't know, time period, contextuality.
I think it.
Huh?
Nothing.
I
I think that even regardless of the time period, it's still racist. It's just whether or not it was accepted or not by people in charge.
exactly. Yeah. Whether the minorities had a voice or not.
Yeah.
So, or the people being affected by it had a voice or not. I don't know. They were marched across the country in famine and genocide. So the thing we found with it though is Eastern has a whole archive of photos of the Savage from the
Really?
mascot. Yeah, but it only allows certain ones and a limited amount to be shown in the digital archive. But their physical archive has plenty of photos of it.
That's
So they
strange.
censored
Well-
the online archive.
Yeah. But even in like if a student came into the archive and wanted to use pictures of the Savage for an assignment, you would still get a limited selection of them because there was a situation where a student came in and wanted to use the picture for research and ended up taking the photo and printing it on t-shirts and selling it on campus. And it caused a huge
When was
big
that?
thing. I don't know.
Oh.
He didn't say when it happened. But like it's like that's why they like even censor it now.
Well, I mean,
Showing it in the physical form.
even if you can only access a couple of the photos, you
Yeah.
can still print them out
Oh.
on a t-shirt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's like not being able to use them in the classroom.
But yeah, that's what I saw. It's just like we still have access to these offensive photos.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna do something bad with them, you still have a couple.
Yeah,
So
that's, yeah. I guess that's more of an issue of should you censor bad things that you did that we did in the past, and it's like, no.
That makes me think of like the winners get to pick what history is.
yeah,
If you're
that's exactly what it
if
is.
you don't want that kind of thing in your archive online, why would you want it physically in the archive? Wouldn't you throw that away as well?
Yeah,
If you're trying to hide it.
that's what's confusing to me is they already have some up there, and it sounded like they were up there with permission of the local tribe. I think it's Spokane tribe.
I don't
The
know.
Cheney tribe.
It could be any tribe.
Yeah,
It could
that's
just be any of the tribes in Eastern Washington.
that's very true. Any on the prairie, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know, because like the whole thing with like that example in itself is that like he didn't really get to talk about it all that much, you know?
yeah, because he didn't want to.
Well, yeah, but I think that like I don't know how censored it is now to like go in there and be like, can I use these physical forms? Because you might be able to like look at them and then like write about them in a paper. But I'm curious if they would even let you like, because like a lot of their stuff is like one copyright, but like I was reading like things like their policies and like you can take photos of it, but you can't like of like anything in there, you know. But it's for like research only, so you couldn't necessarily publish it without their permission explicitly for that specific content. So like I'm sure that you could use the physical forms of those pictures, but I don't think you could take a photo of it. and then share it.
Yeah, it's weird to me that like it's almost like it's trying to hide a history, but I'm curious as to I should have done some form of research on this before sitting down because I was going to bring it up. I'm curious as to who it was that wants those photos off there, whether it's tribes thinking it's or knowing it's offensive, not wanting it published out there, or Eastern trying to be like, yeah, this is kind of a dark time in our history, so we're just gonna put it under the in a box in the dark room in the basement, sub basement. So
we're gonna talk about our class project in a second, but like you were talking about taking not necessarily specifically, but the idea of Eastern censoring what's presented digitally in the archives. And like something that I brought up is that like it might not be Eastern that wants it censored too, you know, because like the Spokane tribe or whatever other tribes that are like whoever they consult when they talk about that type of thing, like okay, like this is an archive that we're building. It's about like Native Americans. Would you guys be comfortable with us presenting the Savage as a piece of Eastern history? And they could have been like, no. You know, that's not something that makes us comfortable. That's not an image that we want people being able to like reproduce, even if it's not sponsored by Eastern. Like they could still reproduce it in such the case of the T-shirts. So no, we would rather that just be a physical archive that can be accessed but not used. And so like the idea of censorship with Eastern is interesting because a lot of things that could be censored could not be censored strictly. I'm not saying that it very well could be Eastern being like, we're just going to hide that piece of our history because we're a college school, because like they are a college school. They're wanting kids to go there. They're wanting a diverse population, not just white kids also.
They're wanting to make money.
Right. So like it wouldn't surprise me if it was just Eastern. They didn't even consult any of the tribes in the area, but also like it could be a tribe that was like, nah, we don't feel comfortable with that being something that's like digitally accessible.
Yeah, it just is weird to me that it was such a common thing for Eastern for almost 100 years to have this mascot, and now it's like, yeah, we can't really even produce pictures of it just for whatever reason. And it's just like, but this was blasted on television screens across the country for football games or whatever. Like this, I can go anywhere else outside the archive and probably find stuff about it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me too that like a digital archive is vastly different in terms of what it can archive than a physical archive. Because like a physical archive could archive anything and everything, and only certain people have access to it, and that's easy to manage. And like he was showing us a site where it's an archive, and like you have to log in, and then prove that you are like a member of such and such tribe in order to view some of the content.
Oh wow!
It's like that's a step you can take, but that's a whole program that like may not even be like usable on an Eastern site type of thing. You know, it's like there's ways you can do it, but like depending on like your access to platform and money and everything, it's not always applicable. So like it's weird that you can censor more physically than you can digitally, and how that affects what archives produce, because they're not really archiving, they're selective archiving, which is
I would count that as propaganda.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is by definition. So.
Well, if it's used to... A prospect student isn't going to go look at the digital archives of Eastern Washington University unless they...
But it's as certain information is selected to be out there for the public to put in, if it's the intent is to have a good image, public image. Yeah, that's PR and property. Okay. So does anybody have any thoughts on censorship before we move on?
I wonder if like they didn't, if it wasn't a matter of like we're just gonna like hide this, if they said, well, yeah, we have this, it exists, here's why it's bad, here's why we changed it, and it's like I wonder if that would do anything as like an alternative to be like not publicizing it, but like if people wanted to know about it.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I hate bringing up the Confederate statues, but that's such a hot topic in America right now. And I'm sure there's like 5 total statues that existed when the Confederacy existed, and not during like the 50s when most Confederate statues were built. But it makes me wonder if like you put plaques on like the loser's side of the war, if it's okay to keep those up there. You know, like those I don't know, like the select Confederate statues that were built before the Confederacy fell. It makes me wonder if you put plaques of like, these people lost, they're bad, like their morals were bad, that type of stuff. It's like holding like Nazi flags and stuff in a museum.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the Nazis weren't good people,
Yeah,
obviously.
I think, not to like interrupt you, but I think the like slight difference there is that like it's a museum, it's meant to preserve history, whereas like the plaques that are existing and like the statues, those are, I mean, museums are public, but they have a certain like connotation of like, this is here to preserve all history, not just a selective history, whereas like those statues are there to display a selective history in some of those locations, and they're very public. And
No, I agree. And
So I
they
think
don't have those plaques, and a lot of them were built after the Civil War. So I completely agree with that.
But I
It's
think-
just, they're just statues of, hey, I'm living in Racistville,
Yeah.
like Louisiana. Like,
I mean, this one is kind of a weird topic to me, just because like my mom went to Robert E. Lee High School in Texas, so like, and that was
Sophia was just like, all right, we're sitting here with
and so like
it's in her blood.
that high school still exists, and so like
It still is named that in
Uh,
2019.
I believe so. I don't know why
Can
it
you
would
say
have
the name
changed,
again?
but Robert
Robert.
E. Lee, he's a Confederate soldier
Okay.
or general, yeah. But so it's like, it's a weird topic for me because like those high schools do exist. And it's a weird
The
topic.
curriculum is racism doesn't exist. The natives packed
Hey,
baits and
that's not
willingly
true.
cross country.
That's not true.
It's kind of
That's
true.
not
That's
true.
in some of the history books.
It's
I feel like that's what you learn in
No,
high school. It's like, yeah.
it's not.
We asked them to move so white people could have more land. They just were like, "Yep,
It is
no
not.
worries.
It is not that racist.
Our
in
ancestral
their
territory
textbooks.
isn't that important to
You
us."
are
Let's just
stereotyping so hard,
that's
and it's so annoying.
people I'm making fun of. I can make fun of them. They've had it easy enough.
Right, but you're making fun of a whole school district's curriculum, and it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, maybe not that high school, but I have seen photos of history books in public schools in the South that say
Current though,
Yeah.
or were they like old
Yeah,
history books
no,
from
they're
like
newly
the
printed. This is
60s?
actively happening.
I don't know. I'd like
It's
to see.
actively being
I
censored.
would like to see the
I'll show you
textbooks before I make a judgment on high school,
I'll show you after.
because like
Trail of
I
Tears
have
is
a
being
lot of
censored.
family that come from the South that do not have that view on history. Their view is much similar to what I have on terms of like what happened with the Trail of Tears and stuff.
Props to them for learning history in a somewhat biased but not biased sense.
I think every history is biased.
Yes, that is true.
Yes, I mean, history is always written from the winner's side.
I said
But
that
also,
about
like,
20
I
minutes
mean, because like, Washington.
I'm not gonna take the Confederate side of like, it was states' rights, so we can own slaves.
But because like even in like when I was in elementary school, when they taught Washington State history at South Pines.
Yeah.
I guess I really shouldn't probably say the school, but anyway, but my elementary school is a lot different than what they teach now, because they teach like that part of our history with like the Native Americans and the tribes a lot differently. So even now, that's where it's still slightly like not taking ownership of what we did to those people. I do not think that it's an issue that's strictly like South related.
Sophia, what's your stance on states' rights? That was awesome. You got
Like-
her.
What do you mean?
Just
Just like
the
the
Civil,
state is
the Civil War, were they right to secede on the sole basis of states' rights? And if you say yes, I'm about ready to school your ass. So.
Well,
I
I'm
do
not.
not want to get in this discussion with him. I'm gonna say we had like a 3-day long argument about the Civil War. It
Well,
was
because I. Yeah, no, I don't think that they have the right to secede. So
Smart.
They were also racist.
I'm gonna bring this back into our discussion.
They were also racist.
On-
I'm not on any side.
Steering away.
So back to the savage.
Wait, so like, do
photos.
you
No?
feel like this? Do you feel like states can like choose to make certain things legal or illegal?
No, I was just talking about states' rights to own slaves. I was wondering if you thought that was right. If you thought human rights existed on
All right,
a
well, okay, so
worldwide basis.
I'm gonna go back to our previous discussion
The savages in the
on
archives.
archiving and the idea of like censorship of physical objects versus digital objects. Go ahead, Hayden.
All right. Yeah. I want to know the photos that were censored from the online archive. I want to know which those ones are and which ones are like the others that are only in the physical archive. I want to know why certain ones were censored versus the other ones.
Yeah.
I don't
Because
even.
like, are they more gruesome in quotes
It's
looking?
a mascot. I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know if there's any digitally. I don't know if you can access any of them digitally via an Eastern sponsored platform.
Yeah.
Okay. If there were any online that were not censored, like if there's 10 photos and we have like 4 online, I want to know why the other 6 were chosen to not be there, if that is the case.
I would also like to know, and I think that is what I'm going to head towards on my individual project, is wanting to know why some are allowed and some aren't. Because I mean, it is part of history. Like, it's a part people should know, but I also agree with it. From my perspective, it doesn't affect my day-to-day life whether those photos are shown. But to a Native American, it could affect their day-to-day
You know, and
life.
I think a lot of the like issues with censorship is like how does it affect the minority in which it is depicting poorly, but also I don't know what I was gonna say. You said something and I was gonna elaborate on it.
Okay.
I don't know what it was.
We're going to move on to what our class project is, so I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's just really gonna bug me that I can't remember what I was
So,
bring it up later randomly.
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I did with you, the comment I had about what you said earlier.
It's about stage rights. So our class project is, but I think the title, or is it our working title, that is called Eastern Revealed.
Pretty sure that's our title.
That's our title. So it's about hauntings of Eastern, so not like like ghosts and ectoplasm. No, so it's the idea is we're gonna throw up flyers with QR codes on them at certain sites and be like, this building used to be this on the land, or it used to be look like this building, and so the QR code would take you to our website and show you the history of that type of land, or like you get like where they're building the new science building, they tore down like really young trees, and someone wants to
That's the like mock-up of the website that, or like of our project.
so someone wants to go and see what the ecological effect of tearing out those trees did to the campus and to the Cheney area to put up the new science building. You can scan a QR code near the new science building and it'll take you to the site that'll explain that type of stuff.
So the idea is to take the physicality of those spaces and turn them into a digital form that reveals something obscure about that space.
I have a tip, or not a tip, like a recommendation. You get these QR codes, you make them stickers, you put them on the like building plaques that are outside the buildings. So like it's kind of
Yeah, we have to get
illegal, but like
we have to
do
get
it.
like, yeah, we're gonna be doing flyers too, which would, so like part of the project is like the temporality of some of these QR codes, because like you can only get approval by Eastern to hang things for a certain period of time. So that's kind of one of the goals, is that certain like topics will suddenly disappear.
Become obsolete.
They'll disappear from the site. They'll be accessible through our archive section, which we haven't defined how that's going to look yet. But so you'll be able to like physically use the QR code if your phone doesn't accept QR codes, which most do. We'll have the URL there too, so they can plug it in. But then the goal would be to have the website accessible through that code. So that code will take you directly to that building's page, right? But then you'll be able to like be like, oh, so what does Patterson have haunting it, you know? And so, the whole point is to like reveal whether it's a big thing or a small thing, the obscurities within the Eastern Campus and the like Spokane, River Point. Is that the campus in Spokane?
Yeah,
Yes.
River Point campus. We're gonna include that campus too, because I know that we knew that there was some students in our class that wanted to do things related to the Spokane River.
Are there
that type of
any
thing.
actual ghost stories and hauntings, or is it more of just like, oh, we got rid of trees?
So in our old gymnasium, a janitor fell from the rafters.
Well, I think where like some of
That was
it's
at my high school too.
What? Every school has that story.
mine was a pool. Kids drowned in the
Oh,
pool.
there was a kid that
In our
drowned at
basement.
my middle school.
Oh yeah, there was.
Oh yeah, we all went to
Oh,
middle school.
well, we're right next to a public pool.
No, that's.
But
that's
no,
a-
well,
that's
so
a
like
middle school.
someone could do like ghost stories and like hauntings, but the idea is like, I think where it kind of stemmed from was like a political sense of haunting. So
Okay.
I don't think anyone's gonna do this because it's a lot of work with getting approval to do like surveys and stuff. But anyway, the idea of like a dorm is haunted by the untold stories of sexual assault. So like that type of thing too.
That's
I mean, you could do that if we didn't use anybody's names in the interviews. We
Well,
could easily do that.
you still have to get approval to do the interview type thing. It's only like anonymous surveying, but you don't have to. I'm
That's
pretty sure.
technically the survey. The interview is technically a survey.
No, because an interview you would be confronting the person.
So what if I post a survey and then leave comment boxes?
I don't know. I don't know how the IRB determines that type
In
of
my
thing.
scientific principles of psychology class, we discussed different ways of gaining research, and surveys are not the same as interviews.
But anyway, so like something that I've been pondering for my individual project is working with the Eastern Archives and producing, and I think I would QR code tag it at like the main sign for campus, or like when you plug in the address where it takes you, you know, because like how campus is so big, but there's one address for the whole campus. But anyway, and doing like, you know, EW is haunted by buildings that no longer exist. And I don't know the narrative that I want to tell with it, but I would take the old photos of campus and go to those same locations and then take a new photo of what is there now and then kind of overlay them. Yeah.
There's
So
like-
where like you could see what it used to exist and what exists. And I don't know how I want to tie that narratively into like how it reveals something. But, like that's an idea that I'm kind of pondering.
It's like those photos online when it's comparing two different photos and they have a slider in the middle, they can go back and forth. You can do that, and like having like your amount of photography background that you have, you just you get like the exact same angle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like it's an identical photo, just different in time.
Yeah.
You do the slider, and it's like old, new, old, new,
Yeah.
background.
That's what I want to do. I just haven't decided how I want to make it reveal something, like the idea of change over time or something like that. But so like those are kind of things that people have been pondering with the group project. But like the overarching thing is like the link between physical space and what physically isn't there, whether it's anymore or at all, or like it's oral tells of the space.
Yeah. So kind of our closing questions, I guess, 'cause there's two of them. You guys have any ideas for projects that you would like to see done for like a hauntings type of thing? Do you like fully understand what the project is?
Yeah.
I get the idea. I can't. It's a difficult thing to talk about just off the top of your head because it sounds like it's going to be really extensive.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a wide range of topics.
Wide.
Yeah. The two I'm bouncing around are the Savage and why it's being censored. But I don't know if that will go anywhere, and I don't really know as if I want to do that, seeing as I'm a white person and it doesn't really have to deal with me. And if I like get too far into the research and it's like, oh, the tribes didn't want those publicized, I have no reason to criticize that.
Yeah.
That's their choice, and I have to respect it, and I do respect it. So, but my other idea is, like what we talked about. Hayden wasn't here. we talked about in the first week about Eastern's $7 million budget loss. Figure out why the loss of like 500 students would like $7 million, that type of thing.
Yeah.
That just doesn't seem right.
And how we're affording, like, I'm sure there's a lot of private sponsorship, but how are we affording these new buildings and a brand new football field?
A $22 million football field.
That rector garbage.
How difficult do you think it would be to find all that information?
What about the second one?
Yeah.
The second idea? So my idea so far would be I would go and interview like an economics professor as my like starting. Someone
That might be difficult to, because if you're saying like, hey, so this is about Eastern's.
I'm not gonna be try to be as critical as possible. I'm gonna try to avoid that. I just want, if anything, I want to make the information as to why this is happening more accessible. I will add in my bias if it starts fitting the narrative I'm thinking it is.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then I'm just like, oh, okay, well, if Eastern has lost $7 million for reasonable reasons, then whatever, this information is now accessible.
It's just like everyone that gets fired, you know, like the student that the kid at your work, got fired because of this budget loss. Well, why?
Yeah.
Like he got fired because of a budget loss, but why is there a budget loss when we're also being able to afford all these new buildings and afford these other
because students are paying for the pub and a new
right,
science
but
building.
like I'm only getting like, I mean I can look at the exact number, but it's only like $50 that I'm getting charged, and there can't be that many students a year being able to put in only $50 to afford a brand new science building. Like I don't know numbers. I'm not a numbers person, but to me that doesn't seem feasible in terms of numbers on top of already getting a budget loss. Like yeah, they're raising tuition, but like is it really? Because like I'm locked into my tuition rate, right?
Yeah. But they'll staple on that extra $50 to it.
Yeah.
And you get financial aid, right? You get loans and stuff.
Yeah.
So like that's $50 of her loans that goes back to the school for that stuff. Like it's still charging her even though she qualifies for financial aid.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not coming out of people that are paying it out of pocket or anything.
Eventually I'll be paying it out of pocket because I have to pay back my loans.
Well, yeah,
But right now, no.
yeah. Right now that $50 is fixed into how much.
By the time I pay it off, that $50 will have been $150.
Oh,
but
more
that's
than that.
but that's
Yeah.
another story.
So
Is it 50 a year, 50 a quarter?
It's a quarter. I don't know if it's exactly 50. That's just the number I tossed out there. But like,
It sounds pretty close.
yeah, I think
that's a lot of money. You take how many thousand students that are on campus? Like 10, 12? And then $50 times that? That's a lot of money. Yeah, so I mean that's my idea for what I'm gonna do for the project is
600 or 600,000.
seems low.
It is low.
So
That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't add up to like adding $50 a quarter to.
$600,000 a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, that's a lot of money. That's 1 year paying for that. Anyway, you haven't any ideas for like projects or anything off the top of your head? It's kind of spur of the moment.
Maybe like, I mean, it depends on what sort of angles you're coming from, but I did, like, I'm thinking about when I was in the archive and I saw the people, like the pictures of the people from the 70s on campus, and that might be a fun thing where it's like, here's the people who were here before you, because sometimes you see people on campus, they're like, we went here back, we met here, and we've been here 20
Who
years.
needs on campus?
What?
Who needs their other on campus?
Excuse
So-
me.
It used to happen a lot. Oh my god. You guys met on campus.
Yeah.
Oh,
That too.
But I mean, like, that is interesting because, like, what was the campus life like in the 70s versus now? Because, like, it's such a commuter school that, like, you don't see people on campus often.
Can you have to define commuter school for me?
Can I what?
Define commuter school?
To where you drive from where you locally live.
So we all
5
have
minutes of
1 hour commutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're all commuters. I've yet to have someone that lives out in Cheney on this podcast. I think that says a lot about a commuter school. So
I've made quite a bit of friends that live in the dorms or at least live in apartments in Cheney for school. I've met a couple people.
Does Dan live out there?
No, Dan lives even farther than us.
Oh yeah, that's right. You talked about
Dan lives in near state line.
Oh
Oh
really?
God.
He has a 2-hour commute, roughly. He drives to the Jefferson Park and ride like I do on the U, I think.
Don't tell people where. Sorry.
We're
Subaru.
license
Or
plate
Subaru
number
Outback.
123HBH.
The VIN number.
It's a blue Toyota Corolla. I don't even know what car is. Is that a car?
It's a Subaru. Come on.
It's not a Subaru.
It is Subaru.
Love. That's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
What are we talking
Nothing. We're just talking shit on Sophia's Subaru. So yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to interview some alumni for sure.
My mom.
There you go.
My grandpa's dead.
Can I say her full name?
Go for it.
Don't.
If you don't think you know it.
Wendy.
Middle name redacted.
Last name door redacted.
What?
Well, and like someone else had the idea of doing like a group of people doing a podcast, and not necessarily from like right, not necessarily like this exact like topic, but like the idea of, because it is a commuter school, doing the drive from Spokane to Cheney, that long of a podcast about the drive. So like my thinking of on top of that was like, okay, so someone could go to that like place with all the statues and like do a podcast about that place.
Oh, I know what that is.
It'd be the drive to Cheney plus parking and then walking to campus.
Yeah.
The struggle of
So, like,
having
people-
to
the-
use public transportation.
Yeah, like the idea of that particular podcast would be that like students could listen to it on their commute, so yeah.
Like, oh,
But-
about this time you should be passing. If you look out to your right.
If you aren't going 85 like an asshole, or 60 in both lanes.
But I thought that one was really cool, and
That's-
I wish that we had a chance to talk in class about who would be interested in doing that, because I definitely would have, but I think I'm just gonna.
I don't even
it's
know.
fine.
I don't even know how to contact that dude with all the statues.
You go visit him. It's a business.
Oh, is it a business?
It's
I
a
was like,
business.
you go visit him, you get a fucking shotgun.
No,
That's
it's a-
exactly good old
it's a-
Backtown, Washington.
It's a business. There's a boutique in, I think it's in Coeur d'Alene, where they use that spaceship with the alien inside. They use it as a prop for their photos for their boutique.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So like it's definitely, it's like, and the big ball thing is that open close sign.
Yeah. So, okay, closing questions. Because it looks like you guys are
Closing
doing
answers.
So,
Everyone's gonna answer.
any ideas what you'd like to see done with the project, like how it's designed, that type of thing? Not necessarily the ideas that go into it.
Or do you need to hear a little more about the design a little bit first?
Yeah, tell us more about the design.
Okay, so we haven't like really hashed out all the details, but some ideas that have been thrown around is the idea of using the QR codes, right? And having a website in case QR isn't usable on your phone. And it would take you to the site for like, it's like the QR code would take you directly to my page dedicated to the photography of the buildings, right? But for my page, you could go into a search bar and search up like Patterson, and it would take you to all of the like article type things about Patterson, the hauntings of Patterson, or the dreams of Patterson, or that type of thing. We've also tossed around about having a homepage with a map of Eastern,
Ooh.
where it would show the current QR codes that are on campus, so that you could like just click on them and access all of them.
Like a geotag
I think that's a
system.
good idea.
Yeah. I've thought of doing the map as our way of archiving. So where like you could click on the building or the location of campus or the Spokane campus or however big we want the map to be, and clicking on that, and then that being our archive where it shows all of the, or a way of archiving and showing all of the QR codes that were there.
Okay.
So we haven't discussed that part of it because some people want it to be the like one where it disappears and you see the ones that are current.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I think it'd be more beneficial to have it be the way of archiving.
Yeah.
But and then we've also talked about having tags for each of the posts, so you could search for by tag and it could be sorted by tag.
That's smart.
I mean, since we're focusing on like location, I think there's a good chunk of people that would like our text to be searchable by locations. Like you do a pop-down menu where it shows all the buildings that have been QR coded. But that's kind of the tentative layout, and then we'd have like an about page and like a home page. So
Yeah. Having an archive is important if you're, especially if you're not if you're gonna be changing where they are.
Yeah,
for sure.
You got any ideas?
I think a cool, like, just a design idea, at least for the QR codes on campus. I said it earlier, to go like the rebel freedom fighter style route and just have like stickers on windows, and like if you go to the pub, there's a little plaque that just is really boring. It says Pence Union Building pub, and it's just like it's too big for what it says. There's no point in it being like that. You just stick a QR code right on that, like rebel style.
I do think the idea of stickers, even if we don't stick them on
Like vandalism.
Yeah, but I think the idea of like handing out stickers to just our main site would be kind of cool, like a QR code that takes you to our homepage. Because then like you could stick it on a water bottle. Well, then all your friends are gonna be like, "Oh, what's that?"
Yeah,
And
legit.
we'll QR code it.
I've only ever scanned QR codes that don't have any context because I want to know.
Well, that's kind of the idea I think that we're having, since we were doing like Eastern Revealed, where like some things could be touchy subjects like maths, where we want it to be as odd as possible in terms of like knowing what exactly it is.
It's like if you're walking into the library and you see a QR code on the metal detectors and the like theft detectors in the front, just see a random QR code right there, you're going to be very interested in scanning that. You could have like the sticker would be the QR code, and there'd be like a little bit on top of it, and you could be like, there could have a slogan or like a.
I think we'd probably have
picture.
our like name, like Eastern Revealed, and maybe a logo.
Yeah, so like just a rectangle sticker where there's a square QR code, and on top just says Eastern Revealed. That would get people like really interested in like what's happening. I just be like, oh, I don't know what this is. I must know because I am a curious educational college student. I gotta know all the facts.
Does that exist out there?
I pretend I am.
Yeah, I like the sticker idea a lot. That's a good idea.
I think students are more likely to grab a sticker from someone hanging them up near a little flyer.
I would.
At least I am. I like stickers. I collect stickers.
I'm good with stickers, but I don't like taking anything from anyone on campus. I don't trust any of those handouts. There's
because they want to sell you shit.
Yeah, actually. So
Okay, but that's
Did you guys get the free grilled cheeses today?
I did do that. Yeah.
I did get a free grilled cheese.
I was not on campus today.
Oh.
I feel like I missed out.
I was.
They were
that
also
was
giving
one
away
thing.
free top ramen and apples, and
I
also,
wasn't there for the apples.
there was all sorts of fruit, top ramen. Like they were just handing out food, like on the like. I think it was the
I wonder if
first.
they're really
first Friday
promoting
order.
their.
It was like
food
food
bank.
day.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was like a food bank day.
See, I always avoid the center campus whenever there's something going on in it. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people. I'll walk around.
I was trying to get my Panda Express like the other half of the school.
No kidding.
Yeah, actually.
How many tons of orange chicken do you think?
Good
went through?
God.
Right.
I got a free book one time that I'm assuming was a student or faculty that had published a book, and I got a free hardcover copy of the book. I haven't read it yet because I'm an English student and have other things to read. But
No, all that handout stuff just reminds me of being in like 4th grade. I would get off. I had a transfer bus in elementary school.
Yeah, you transfer at my elementary school, right?
I think so. I don't know. So I get off the bus, but there was always these Bible thumpers.
I was thinking about that today. That's so random.
There's like I'm a child in elementary school going from bus to bus trying to get home just because I want to not be at school anymore. And there's these old people at elementary schools handing out mini Bibles to elementary students.
You know, my Catholic priest always used to tell me to get them while they're young. So.
you know, not to steer away from that, but like, you know, handing out like flyers is like one thing, but when it's a physical object, it definitely does tie in whoever you're handing it to a little bit more than just a piece of paper. So like I'm not saying anything pro like handing out Bibles to students, but like at my old campus at NAU, the Lodell NAU students that are listening, help me out here.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway,
They don't.
they would
they're
hand
not
out.
here. They're not shipping any likes.
They don't exist.
They
Starting from the comments.
they would
No one comments on.
hand out lighters to
Lighters?
promote their business
To children?
to college students.
Okay.
So you would walk around, they would hand you a lighter, and it would have their business on it, but it was a lighter / bottle
So you
opener.
use it, yeah.
I
It's the
use.
same as like matches.
I still use it.
Yeah, that's how pens work from businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the idea of a sticker, because stickers are pretty in right now. Not to like tie it
Sticker
back.
bombing is in. I've seen that on Insta. You buy.
Just make the QR codes look cool. People
Do you not know what sticker bombing is?
I knew I
don't know
QR
what sticker
code.
Okay,
bombing is.
so
on,
like,
you can do it on, like,
imagine
Adobe.
that's your
I can't remember
laptop.
which one.
You get like 200 stickers, and you just
Oh.
like you put them everywhere. So
Oh.
it's just
I've done that inadvertently.
okay. It's a new fad.
Okay, well I did it
It's not
3 years
It's
ago.
not new. It's
Okay,
probably
it's-
when she was
It's
getting into it.
getting more
I saw it
popular.
on Pinterest. But I thought it was
Insta.
really
It's-
cute.
No, my
It's on Insta.
the bubble or whatever it was, the sticker place on the internet.
Redbubble.
Red
Yes,
Bubble.
my roommate bought like a big pack of their stickers, and so I decorated my laptop with some of the ones I liked from that. And it was like full. It was completely.
How come
full of
every
stickers.
college student's laptop is full of stickers?
That's what it is.
Just looking
That's-
that up.
No, that's how I was in like middle school. I had my first laptop. I'd have all these like Pikachu stickers and crap like that. It was Pokemon and other video games because I'm too much of a nerd. But it was a wall-to-wall laptop with stickers. And then I think like a year and a half later, I was like, man, we need to rip these off. This is dumb.
Can I mention how much no one cares right now? Okay, so do we
Wow.
have
Wow.
suggestions?
Spicy.
Do we have any suggestions for the class project?
Sticker bomb.
I wrote
I
this.
think we did. We already ask
Yeah,
this.
we already asked this.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, Matt, catch up.
Catch up. You're complaining to me. You always get like this.
I feel like anyone that's listening at this point, I apologize, but thank you for staying in this long. We are all tired,
We love you.
obviously.
I'm good.
I love you.
Yeah, thanks for having.
Anyway,
What was
well,
that? Do we have a
thank
name for that
you.
caller?
Yeah.
thank you, Sophia and Hayden, for chatting with us about archiving and physical and digital archives, and putting your input in for our group class project, because this is something that we want to be for Eastern students on top of other audience members.
I thought it was important for this subject that we had Eastern students on.
Yeah, so I think it's super helpful that we have your guys' input on things that you would like to see or promotion ideas and that type of stuff. So it's super helpful. And I hope that our class has listened to this podcast enough to get to this point. But if not, we'll bring it up in class when we discuss it.
Oh no, I haven't been recording. I'm
Okay.
joking.
All right, start from the top.
Oh no, gotta go home.
Okay, so Maisie, you need to start barking. Maisie, bark.
No, don't do it. Yes, thank you a lot for taking time out of your night to be here. I know it was kind of last minute having you guys over, but I appreciate it. I had to basically beg Sophia.
No.
She actually
Wow.
made me kiss her toes.
Oh my God.
It was kind of disgusting.
It's what I'm into.
And other news, Matt is sleeping on the couch tonight.
You have a couch.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I enjoy being pulled away from my computer whenever possible. It doesn't happen too much.
All right, so can we go eat now?
Yeah. So let's
Baked beans?
Sweeto?
hold up, Sweeto. Hold on. Before we go, I'd like to take 1 minute to promote Sweeto Burrito, as they have fueled my diet
And his
weekend.
naps.
Every Saturday
And his naps.
for like the last 3
Every
months.
Saturday for the last 3 months.
3
Oh.
months.
Their buff
Naps.
chick burrito. It's so good.
And then he takes naps.
I've never been to Sweeto Burrito.
Oh, you need to go.
It's not.
What time?
Are you
naps?
wait, are you still fucking vegan or whatever?
It's just vegetarian. I'm not fucking vegan.
I think they got stuff with not meat. It's a little boy. Oh, sorry. So
I don't like Sweeto burritos.
Let's,
so
Yeah, there's some hard opinions.
so thank you, Sweeto, for fueling my college life. Okay. Thank you guys for coming. Kenzie, I guess it was a pleasure having you. We'll talk about it.
It was
later, I guess.
definitely an emotion.
Thank you and good day.